What's up, brand builders? Stephen Hurahan here at BrandMasterAcademy.com, and in this video you're going to learn 10 brand identity design elements that you need to include when designing strategic brands. So you can design brands that don't just appeal visually, but influence buying decisions. Now, if you're new to the channel and you want to build brands that go beyond the visuals using strategy, psychology, and creative thinking, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. If you want to fast track your results, make sure you grab the Pro Brand Strategy Blueprint. It's a free download and the link is in the description. Now, let's face it, graphic designers are not thin on the ground today. They're pretty much everywhere, and it's not difficult to find somebody who will put together a logo for you. You can go on Fiverr, you can go on Upwork, you might find a senior designer and pay decent money and get a beautifully crafted logo. You might go with a junior designer who may or may not do a decent job for you, or you might even go with some 17-year-old with a cracked version of Photoshop who will put together a logo if you don't really care what it looks like. Now, the reality is, this isn't really branding. This is not what branding is. It's not just about going out and getting a logo. The logo is only a very small part of the overall brand. In fact, the logo is only a very small part of the brand identity system. Within the brand identity system, you have multiple elements all working together within an ecosystem. And if you know what those elements are, and you're able to design those elements with some strategic thinking involved, then you can design a brand identity system that will work towards influencing the mind of the audience. Now, the role of the brand identity system is to appeal visually and quickly assign meaning for the audience about what the brand is all about. And that visual appeal is at every single touch point throughout the brand. It's on the website, it's on business cards, it's on the shop front, it's part of the shop design, it's part of the interior design, it's also part of any other collateral, any brochures, any user experience, any kind of interaction that anyone might have visually with the brand. If they can see the brand, if they can experience that brand visually, that's part of the identity system, and the identity system is part of the overall brand experience, which looks to influence and shape the mind of the audience about what the brand actually means. Now, in order for a brand identity system to play its role effectively, then it needs to communicate certain characteristics, and those characteristics are key. They are determined within the brand strategy itself as to how the brand is going to appeal and resonate with that audience. And those characteristics then influence the brand identity system and all of the elements within it. So in this video, I want to show you 10 brand identity design elements that you need to be considering within your strategic brands so that your brand identity designs can start playing the role that they're supposed to be playing as part of an overall brand strategy. Brand identity element number 1 is, of course, the logo. Now, the logo has been put on a pedestal in the last 15 to 20 years, and the word logo has become synonymous with the word brand to the point that a lot of people who don't know too much about branding do believe that a logo is a brand, but those closer to the profession of branding or those closer to branding their own businesses know that a brand is much bigger than a logo. But the logo itself is still very, very important. It plays a really important role in appealing to who the audience is. And that appeal really solidifies how the brand is going to be experienced and sets the tone for how the brand is going to be experienced right throughout the customer journey. Identity element number 2 is typography. Now, typography plays a really important role in setting the style of the brand. Now, typography comes with its own predefined characteristics. Now, unless, of course, you're creating a custom font from scratch, then of course you can design the characteristics into that font. But for the most part, when you're designing a brand identity, you're using pre-existing fonts. And it's really a case of the strategic alignment aligning with the characteristics that have been predetermined within the brand strategy. So it's a case of matching like for like, defining what those characteristics are and going out and finding a font that displays those characteristics so it fits seamlessly into the brand identity system. Identity element number 3 is the color palette. Now, while typography sets the style for the brand identity, the color palette really sets the mood because color has the ability to influence our mood. And that's because we have a primitive relationship with color, and that's because of our relationship with nature. We assign meaning to things based on their color because we associate that meaning with that color. So we know that water is cool, we know that fire is hot. So there are some psychological connotations when it comes to color. So it's really important that you use that wisely, you use that strategically when selecting a color palette for your brand identity system. Identity element number 4 are patterns. Now, patterns can be used very effectively throughout a brand identity system, and they can be used in a variety of different environments. They do provide a bit of texture, they allow you to fill blank spaces, and they can be used throughout the brand experience as a whole. If you think about department stores or certain types of high street brands that put their patterns onto their bags or onto their packaging, then when you see somebody walking down the street with those bags, you see the pattern, you don't necessarily see the logo, and you remember, you recall that brand. So they are a very effective and a very flexible tool for brands to use throughout the brand identity system. And using that throughout the brand experience can be very effective in helping your audience to recall your brand. Brand identity element number 5 is image and photography style. Now, imagery is a very good way to engage your audience because it does have that ability to set the mood and set the tone and evoke an emotion. The right image in the right place at the right time can really evoke the emotions of your audience. Now, of course, if you have a big budget, you can go out and get yourself a photographer to create a completely new image style for your brand. But even without a big budget, the right designer can help you to come up with an image style that is aligned with your brand strategy, is aligned with the characteristics and the emotions that you want your audience to feel. So really think about what emotions you want your audience to feel, what characteristics you want aligned with your brand, and then make sure they are designed into your photography or image style. Brand identity element number 6 are graphics and iconography. Now, these are probably one of the most flexible tools within the brand identity system because you can use them pretty much anywhere, from your website to your packaging to graphics on the wayfinding within a building. Anywhere where there is visual engagement is a place that you can use graphics or iconography. And again, this all contributes to the overall brand experience. If you're in a building and you see a sign and it has a generic icon on there telling you where to go, then it's less effective, it's less cohesive than an icon that is part of an overall brand identity system. So this is really getting down into attention to detail and really going down to the deepest level in terms of making sure that the consistency is there, that the brand experience is cohesive and it's absolutely everywhere on every single touch point. Brand identity element number 7 are illustrations. Now, illustrations are not for every brand, and you tend to have brands that will either go with a unique image style or a unique illustration style. You don't have many brands that will go with both. That's not to say it doesn't happen, but it tends to be either a unique image style or an illustration style. Now, this has been a growing trend, certainly within the tech sector, over the last 5 years or so, is having a unique illustration style. But it's not, as I said, for every brand. You really need to consider what image your audience should have about your brand. And if illustrations align with that image, then by all means use illustrations within your brand identity design. But again, consider who the audience is, consider the image that you want to own in their mind, and use that when deciding whether or not illustrations are for your brand identity system. Brand identity element number 8 is grid style. Now, grid style allows you to have a consistency to the information that you're displaying across all touch points. If you think about some modern brands today have upwards of 100 touch points, and every single touch point has different information, different kinds of information. And if there is no cohesiveness, if there's no consistency to how the information is displayed, then it can seem a little bit haphazard. So a grid style will help with that consistency. It will help with that information flow. And again, just add to the brand experience and the consistency of that brand experience. Brand identity element number 9 is audio. Now, audio is becoming increasingly important because we're experiencing brands in a different way today. We're experiencing brands more audibly today than we ever have before. Brands have podcasts today. They have YouTube channels. They've got videos on their website. And if you look at Google Trends and the increase of search through voice, you can see where it's all going. You can see the amount of devices that are coming out now that will allow us to experience brands audibly. So this is becoming increasingly important. It's only going to get more and more important, but it's important as well that you consider your strategy when deciding how to use audio within your brand identity system, within your brand experience. Really think about what experience you want your audience to have, what image they want to have of your brand, to make sure that your audio is aligned with those characteristics and with those images. So if you want your brand experience to be fun and happy and bright, then your audio should align with those feelings. So again, thinking strategically about who the audience is and the image that you want to have in their mind, and make sure that you use that strategically within your decisions. And brand identity element number 10 is motion and animation. Now, again, this comes back to the evolution of brands and the evolution of our experiences with brands. It is evolving, and we are experiencing brands in many different ways. And if you think about how we might engage a brand through their app or through their website or through an interactive billboard, there are many opportunities for a brand to have animations in there to add to the overall brand experience. So you might have an animated logo at the beginning of your video, or you might have animated characters throughout some kind of interactive experience. But again, this all plays into the overall brand experience and that cohesiveness and that consistency. So thinking about the experience that you want your audience to have, the image you want them to have of your brand, and using that with motion and animation throughout that brand experience. Now, I don't know how many times I use the word brand experience throughout that video, but that is the crux of the message here. Every single brand identity element within your brand identity system is part of an ecosystem that works toward that brand experience. And the brand identity itself plays a dovetail role with the brand strategy. And again, every single element within the brand strategy adds to that overall brand experience, and both work together as a team to provide that experience to the audience and shape their mind about what the brand should mean. Now you know the brand identity elements and the role that they play within the overall brand experience. If you want to understand and learn about the brand strategy elements and the role that they play, well then this video will show you how. Until next time, brand like a master, and I'll see you in the next video.